Hello and welcome to This Day in Esoteric Political History from Radiotopia. My name is Jody African. Well, look, we're here to mark Juneteenth, the holiday commemorating the emancipation of enslaved people in this country. We've done a proper episode on that, by the way, on the roots of Juneteenth. It was a really good episode, I think. People can go check that out. We'll put a link to that in the show notes. So we were thinking about other stories that we could tell on this moment, and we figured that on and around this day, you might be hearing one particular song a fair amount. Lift Every Voice and Sing, commonly known as the Black National Anthem.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea.
We've gotten a number of requests from folks to do the history of this song, and so we figured this was a pretty good moment to do so. Lift Every Voice and Sing was written as a poem by James Weldon Johnson in 1900 and then set to music by his brother, John Johnson. Bummer of a name, John Johnson. But in 1905, he adds music to it. And then in 1919, it was declared the Negro National Anthem by the NAACP. And it has had this kind of really fascinating life since then, with moments where it feels like it breaks through to larger popularity, and then others where it's eclipsed by other freedom music and black music. But as we'll discuss, my sense is that as we've started to recognize Juneteenth more in recent years, this song has kind of ridden that wave and had a little bit more of a resurgence. And one of the reasons I can say that with confidence is because when Beyonce performs your song at Coachella, that officially counts as a resurgence. So, take it from Beyonce. This song is having a moment. But here to discuss the story of Lift Every Voice and Sing, 1900 to 2023, are, as always, Nicole Hemmer of Vanderbilt and Kellie Carter-Jackson of Wellesley. Hello there.
Hello, Jody.
Hey there.
I was hoping Kellie would sing.
I know.
I sing this song almost every night to my kids.
Aww.
So it started when they were young, and I wanted them to know it, or I wanted them to at least be familiar with it, so when they heard it, they wouldn't be like, what is this? And it started to be something I did just in the month of February, and then they memorized it. They have most of it. We don't have all three stanzas, but they certainly have the first stanza. And it's incredible to me to see, like, wherever we go, whether it's like I don't know, a football game, a church service, anything that's like black centered, you are getting the Black National Anthem, no question. And it's I don't know, it's just really special.
And we'll talk about the lyrics and the message, but it's also just musically way better than the regular national anthem, which I think is just a terrible song.
Low bar, but okay.
Yes.
They're both hard songs to sing. I will tell you that.
Right.
Like, can we just get an easy anthem that's like a bop? I don't know. It's a lot of words. It's a lot of verses.
It is a lot of words. Yeah.
No repetition or very little.
But have your kids glommed onto any particular lyrics or moments? Or
Oh, yes. They love the sing a song part. Sing a song. Like, they both that out. They don't always get the words right, but the rhythm is there. So, but there's a really good book I always recommend. It's called Sing a Song, and it's by Kellie Starling Lyons. And it's such a good book that really starts with the history of James Weldon Johnson, his brother John Rosamond Johnson, and tells like how they wrote this song and just sort of like how it became a thing.
We want to sort of lay that out a little bit. Niki, what do we know about these two brothers?
So this was a song that was written while the two brothers were in Jacksonville, Florida. The poem was written to celebrate Lincoln's birthday. So a callback to Abraham Lincoln, to emancipation. They write the song, they set it to music, and they teach school children, 500 school children in this chorus, to sing the song. So from the beginning, it's like this big choral arrangement, which I think is something that a lot of people associate the song with, or the big choral arrangement. And then they moved to New York, and they don't think about the song very much after that at all. But these school children keep singing it, and they grow up and they teach it to their children, and soon it's spreading everywhere. And as you were saying in the introduction, Jody, within 20 years, it's the Negro national anthem. That was a little seed that was planted to celebrate Lincoln's birthday.
But I just love that they didn't really have the designs on that. They didn't really know this was happening, right? That it was spreading through the South over the course of 20 years, where they were in New York, and then one day they look up and like, wait a minute, I recognize that song.
That's my song. I love that it's children that sort of propagated it.
Yeah.
Like children are the ones that kept singing it and kept the song alive, and then taught it to their children. It really makes the song a gift.
Yeah.
And it's so fascinating, Kellie, that your story is about teaching it to your children.
Yes.
And your children like really enjoying just like belting out the song. So I think that there is something about the joy of the song and that kind of like beltability, which is really fun when you're a kid. It's fun when you're a grown up too, but kids are a little more free spirited, and so they really do it with gusto.
Yes.
And so that feels like a through line through its more than 100-year history.
I sort of sing it like a lullaby. You know what I mean? I cannot sing. I do not have a voice. But, when it's bedtime, it has become like a real part of our routine. But going to an HBCU and like going to Howard, and it's something that you sang, at the start of every football game with your fist raised high in the air, as every good Howard alum knows. Like there was a militancy to the song, but the song was also sung like a prayer. It was also sung like from a place of encouragement, when times are tough. The song can be used in so many different ways, and I think that's also why it has staying power.
Well, so I sang it in, middle school, and then high school we were taught it, at my kind of lefty Quaker school. And, as school choir, we sang it at, pageants and so forth. And I don't think I ever sang the actual national anthem during my time in high school. So
Went out at a Quaker school.
Yeah, what kind of school I went to. But, it's funny because it was certainly not given to us as a song of militancy, right? It was in that kind of like, if I'll put it bluntly, that kind of like safe-ish, we shall overcome kind of vibe of like solidarity and resistance, but, pretty apolitical and much more, kind of about uplift. And so I think actually similar to We Shall Overcome, there's ways that you can sing that song and position that song as very bland, and there's ways you can sing and position that song as a real radical act. Yeah.
I mean, we did not at Howard, we did not sing the national anthem, like the American national anthem. Sounds bad, but it probably would have got booed. Do you know what I mean? But we always sing the Black national anthem, like always. And I think the fact that we sing it with a raised fist is what made it sort of militant. But, but for me, it was also a song we sang in church all the time. Like it was basically a hymn, and that's how it got moved around so much.
Yeah, I do think that ability for it to be a church song, in addition to being this festive song, to be a lullaby, to be all of those different things, speak to not just its staying power, which I think we'll talk about, but its malleability or its ability to sort of code switch for different situations.
Yeah. Every lyric means something so different to what you might be experiencing in life.
Yeah.
You're used to hearing my voice on the world, bringing you interviews from around the globe.
And you hear me reporting environment and climate news. I'm Carolyn Beeler.
And I'm Marco Werman. We're now with you hosting the world together. More global journalism with a fresh new sound.
Listen to The World on your local public radio station and wherever you find your podcasts.
So let's talk about one other moment in the 30s, and I do want to talk about the Civil Rights era, which is, I think, has a really interesting role in there. But in the 30s, there's this moment at the 1939 World's Fair where there's a piece of work commissioned, a piece of art, a sculpture, but it's called Lift Every Voice and Sing, and it's sort of inspired by this poem and this song. But that's a really fascinating little story. Do you want to talk about Augusta Savage, who made that piece that's at the World's Fair?
Augusta Savage made a sculpture in which Black children are in the shape of a harp, the musical instrument, a harp. And they are all sort of pressed together with their heads cascading downward in the shape of a harp. And then there's a child at the front of the harp that is sort of bent over. And it looks beautiful. It is a piece that will stop you in your track because you will look at it and you will, it's so powerful. What's so terrible about it is that after the World Fair was over and 5 million people got to see this sculpture, talk about a huge coup for Augusta Savage, but the artwork was destroyed. And the only thing they had left were these tiny Black replicas. Augusta had talked about how she could not afford to cast it in bronze, and she couldn't afford for someone who would sort of store it or keep it in a place. And so we don't actually have the original piece, but we have the replicas, and the replicas, even in their small selves, are pretty powerful.
The crazy thing about that story is that it's not that it wasn't appreciated in its own time. People loved that piece. But because she didn't have the money and no one stepped in to make it happen, we just have the little replicas.
And, the only piece from a Black woman artist at the World's Fair happens to get destroyed by a bulldozer as they're cleaning up, there you go. All right, into the 50s. I mentioned We Shall Overcome. You think of other songs, We Shall Not Be Moved. Where and how did Lift Every Voice and Sing play into that movement that clearly had music at the real heart of it all?
Lift Every Voice and Sing was something that was sung. I mean, it was sung at the organizational meetings for the Montgomery bus boycott, which often took place in churches. Martin Luther King Jr. quoted it. But I think that it felt a little churchy and official for a movement that was eager to emphasize, I think, more and bring people together around grassroots, and that there was a real move toward these kind of folk songs and folk music as the uniting anthems of the Black civil rights movement, the freedom struggle in the late 50s and early 60s. So Lift Every Voice, it doesn't go away, but it just becomes less popular compared to some of these other anthems.
Can I just say what you're not supposed to say? It's too long.
It's long.
It's long. It's wordy. There's no repetition, not like if you're singing This Little Light of Mine, well, everyone can do that. You know what I mean? And you can throw in different variations and make it work. But you can't really do that with Lift Every Voice and Sing. You have to sort of sing it and sing the whole thing. And most Black people that I know only know the first stanza,
right? Or
the
even
second and third,
or even just the sing a song part, right? Which is the only part where it sort of breaks into kind of like there's repetition in two lines, and it has this sort of cadence and this looping thing. And gosh, I'm no kind of musicologist, but I wonder if the fact that this church music and folk music are both written, to be easily learned and impactful and plain language and repetitive, and that even if you don't know the song, every 10 seconds you're going to have something you can, you've already memorized after hearing it.
It's like
once.
the wheels on the bus.
And this was in whatever way not written out of a church. It was written, for a pageant or whatever. I just wonder if there's some distinction there.
Really,
that this was written as exactly. This was written as a poem and then adapted, and I do wonder. Much like the U.S. national anthem, but I think that was the distinction there, and so I'm sure that's one of the reasons that, like, even as you were saying, Niki, like it wasn't adopted by civil rights, but you couldn't see like then musicians like Odetta or whatever picking this up and singing it as much as they would do This Little Light of Mine or We Shall Overcome or things like that. There was also this interesting moment after King is assassinated, though, where this song gets a real prominent place, and the Reverend Virgil Wood declares that that we are not gonna sing the anthem that has dishonored us. And there's some reporting that when he's referring to that, he's actually talking about We Shall Overcome, and we're not going to sing that, but we're actually going to sing the one that has honored us, and he sings Lift Every Voice and Sing. I'm just curious about that. I don't know enough, but maybe We Shall Overcome was seen as like co-opted or too bland in that moment of rage after King had been assassinated. But the fact that they turned to this song as the one in that moment after the assassination, I think says a lot.
Yeah, I think so too. I think in the children's story, Sing a Song, like the anthem sort of plays out over and over again during good times, but also during really bad times, during really sad times. The song is meant to sort of be an exhortation or a way to encourage you when you're down. And the lyrics do that. The lyrics have a way of talking about hope and then tragedy and then like, you know, sort of rising again. And I think that in a lot of ways the song just feels more appropriate for events or moments where you want to have it resonate with the crowd who's singing it.
Yeah. Let's move a little bit now towards kind of modern day. I mean, well, you know, it was included by George W. Bush at the 2001 inauguration. First time it gets, you know, a platform there.
Did not realize that.
And then
I didn't realize that either.
And then, I mean, certainly, you know, I couched this, framed this in the intro, but, you know, we've seen since 2020, right? Juneteenth has been, sometimes cynically, sometimes in earnest, this kind of thing that has glommed on for a lot of places. As like, well, this is where we're going to kind of put all of our feelings about what happened in 2020 about Black Americans, and we're going to kind of, Juneteenth became the sort of source for a lot of that. And I think this song has become attached to that as well. And so, you know, it's appearing more and more. What happened in 2020? Google, like their little doodle on Juneteenth, their little animated doodle would play this song when it went, you know, when you went to Google. In
Didn't
2022,
the NFL play it too?
Yeah,
like,
the
NFL.
The NFL played it alongside the national anthem
Yeah.
in 2020. And this is kind of my main point here, and I think it says so much because, you know, it's only 3 years later, but it is 3 years later. We can see. It's just like, you look at things like this, and even Juneteenth celebrations and, you know, social media posts or companies going out of it's like, all of these are like in 2020 and 2021, but there's no real indication that it wasn't just a kind of like, well, we got to do something in this moment. Let's play this song. Let's honor Juneteenth and let's move on, you know. And I'd be curious this year and in years going forward whether it's actually seeped its way in or whether my assumption, you know, that the aftermath of George Floyd and everything that happened summer 2020 was like a 1 or 2 year let's try and check this box and then we'll just keep it moving kind of thing.
I mean, I think that there's something about why Lift Every Voice and Sing has stayed such a part of the Black community, and that it hasn't really gotten a lot of traction outside of that. Your Quaker school is such an exception. But like, I think that Black people oftentimes treat like, this is a song that will not be co-opted. So you are welcome to sing it, but like, it won't ever really be able to be taken outside of the community. In
People
ways
weren't like,
that,
thank you, Google, for making it Google Doodle.
That's cute. That's nice. Thank you. However, like, you can't, I don't think you can really appropriate it because the lyrics of the song won't allow you. Do you know what I mean? Like, the lyrics are that sharp or that specific that it's kind of hard to do that.
You mean you don't think you can go to Walmart and buy a shirt that says, "Too stony the road we trod, better the chastening rod felt in the days
Please
when hope
tell me
unborn
there's
had
not a
died,
shirt."
yet with a steady beat have not our weary feet." I could sell like hotcakes.
Rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Oh my gosh, no. I just remember, was it maybe 2021 where there was like plates and merch and t-shirts that said like, "It's the freedom for me" and "Free at last," and they had like Juneteenth ice cream, and I was like, this is like, oh my God. It's getting
It's the
out
freedom
of
for
control.
me is
It's the freedom for me.
yikes.
Stunning.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Though I will see, you know, this is our Juneteenth episode. I would be curious how much of that stuff we'll see. I'm sure we will see plenty of hacky social media posts and sort of bad merch and so forth, including, as we wrap up, I was going to say at the beginning of the episode, I don't really know. I'm curious. Do you say Happy Juneteenth? What do we say? Yeah? Happy Juneteenth? Okay.
I mean, you know, it's not like Happy Christmas or Merry Christmas.
Right.
Maybe
I mean,
Happy Holidays.
Merry Juneteenth would be great.
Merry Juneteenth.
Merry Juneteenth. I mean, yes, it is a it commemorates, if people listen to our episode, it commemorates a positive moment, but, you know, what do you say on Memorial Day? You know, I could say Happy Memorial Day, right?
No, that's not really a thing. I mean, I don't know.
Anyway.
I say Happy Juneteenth.
Okay.
Folks,
Well, then
you can say Happy Juneteenth.
And I, in the outro, can now say Happy Juneteenth. And thanks, as always, Nicole Hemmer.
Merry Juneteenth,
There you
Jody.
go. And Kellie Carter Jackson. Thanks to you.
My pleasure.
Lift every voice and sing till in no heaven ring. Mine is the harmony of liberty. Let us rejoice, sing, rise high as the listening skies.
Let it resound loud as the rolling sea.
Sing a song full of the hope that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope as the
Radiotopia.